सहनातु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
So let's start the class since we're a little late. We are on the topic of converting. Okay, I'm rephrasing the sentence. We are on the topic of how to discover inner freedom. Inner freedom implies that there are moments in every human form, for every human being, where there is some stifling felt. There is some, is this audio okay? Loud enough? Okay. So there's some inner Jakadan felt. This is a constant search. A lot of our classes are going to start with this premise because every time we move forward, we may forget the premise from where Shastra is looking at us. So our premise is that we are in the quest for finding a peaceful, existent state and a long, peaceful, existent state. Now the topic Shastra is talking about, and here in the context Ramana is telling us, in the background of Vedas, Upadesa Sara, as I said, is also Veda Sar. So the Sar is the essence. So the essence of the Vedic knowledge is in these 30 verses. The first part starts with how will you discover your inner freedom? That you don't have to create it is the first lesson. You are already free. You are ever free. ये आपका स्वभाव है. अब भी है, पहले भी था, हमेशा रहेगा, changeless है. But what about the times that we don't feel that? What about the times that we are dependent to discover it? What about the times that we are wanting more happiness, etc.? That becomes an indication to say that we are feeling not free. So Shastra's way of addressing it is to make your mind, which is feeling jakda hua, if you're going to look for another savior, just quote unquote, as a savior, जो आपको उठा लेगा, जो आपको shanti de, some dependent factor, but within the creation itself, then it may give some temporary respite like first state, but it will not be a complete state of inner freedom. कहीं पे और जाके आपको वो बंधन फील होगा. Therefore, Shastra introduces to us a very magnanimous vision to start with. To get to that point, it introduces an element, and that element is not a part of creation, but is the source of creation. It projects it as a source of creation and not one of the ingredients, part of creation. When I say a part of creation, I mean animals, birds, this humans, material, mineral, seasons, उनमें ही कुछ एक चीज हो तो अलग है. It will become a part of the world. But Shastra introduces something which is the source of creation. That source of creation, in our present state of minds, involved in that jakda hua, is not appreciated. As the statement that you are ever free, nitya Shuddhaha Muktaha Tvamasi. Yeah? And especially if somebody is feeling jakda hua and you tell them you are a Nitya Sukhi, likely you're going to get, you know what I mean. It's not acceptable as statement. So your Nitya Sukhi state will get interrupted because it's going to throw back at you. Now, Shastra started saying how to convert. This lifetime is, any life is a very precious life. How in this life will you make that possible for yourself? That you are able to come to recognize that you're an ever free person. I'm never bound. I'm an ever free person. That journey starts with the introduction of a fairly relatable element. Needs some practice, but it's relatable, in line of truth. And that element is called Ishwara, source of creation, now becoming tangible in borders in a human intellect becomes Ishwara. It's still not definable as a form. It's not a stone, it is not a flower, it is not anything. So it's not definable, but it is now beginning to come into the purview of the intellect's capacity. Intellect has a capacity to reach up to a point. Up to that entry point, just about the border of your intellect, is the concept of Ishwara, is the idea of Ishwara introduced. Converting those, how to bring Ishwara into life, is now the whole formula. Through actions, Kaika Karma, through speech, Vachika Karma, and through mind, Manasa Karma. Now we have covered Vachika Karma, Kaika Karma and Vachika Karma in the last classes. There's a question, Priyanka, you have asked. I'm just repeating the question. In the last class, you had talked about Japa Karma hai ya Phalam hai. Karam hai ya Phalam hai. And then Jap is Paap Nashak. We had brought that quote. Jap usi ko kehte. And from there I had said, जो बांध रहा है वो जप है. A little elaboration on that. The idea of japa is, supposing I say, Audrey Hepburn is beautiful. If I say Audrey Hepburn is beautiful, what am I saying? In that statement, what am I saying? Audrey Hepburn is beautiful. The beautiful
Means maybe someone else is not beautiful, or
It's a perception. In your
it's a,
eyes,
okay, correct. In my eyes, it's a perception. All right, fine. Beauty lies in the eyes. Okay, just stick to that example. Beautiful could be an adjective to her, but in my eyes, it can be she is no separate from the beauty. There is a tadatmyam, there is oneness. My idea of beauty, if I think of something beautiful, it'll go to that. That means though beautiful can exist a lot of places, but when I say she is beautiful, then this two are now seen as one. That means मैंने इनको बांध दिया. Audrey Hepburn को beauty से बांध दिया. For me, beauty lies in Audrey Hepburn. Now, supposing I say Japa itself is phalam. Jap ही फल है. Now what have I done? जप जो करता है उसका फल है नाशक, पाप नाशक. Paap nashak is supposed to be the result of japa. But is the result separate from japa? Means जप वही होगा जो पाप का नाश करता है. अगर मेरा जप पाप नाश नहीं कर रहा, even if there is a word आवृत्ति, शब्द आवृत्ति हो रही है, there is a repetition happening, but it is not doing anything, or it is giving me some other result, as we have seen many times people कर रहे हैं लेकिन agitated हैं. So when you are agitated inside and कर Ram 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram, so that eyebrows go like that, and there's a rage, and I think in our dadis and nanis times now also there must be, but at least my dadis and nanis time we saw where there were a lot of such things were followed in at household level, every household level. So before, they were to have a bath and then do certain, before they entered the kitchen also. The kitchen fire was not lit till all this was done. So we as children, if we just got up and by mistake had touched, I remember touched my nanny aunt. Oh God, she pushed me like anything. I was such a small baby and she pushed me because now she has to go and have a bath again. And in those days they had to bring, I'm not really talking such old times, but if it was there even in our time, which is like a few decades old, that means it was something that was agitating. Though her tongue is moving. By the time she'd taken fresh clothes, गीले कपड़े पहन के जाना होता था उनको, and अशुद्धि हो जाती थी, that kind of a concept. So अशुद्धि हो गई, so now again they can't, that puja phal will go away, and so they have to again do all these things is what our modern education transformed all of us, and a disconnect happened from it. The purpose is that japa, जिसका फल पाप नाश नहीं है, that japa is just another exercise of the tongue. And it can be worse. It can also be adding on to a person to believe कि मैं तो बहुत religious हूँ, मैंने तो इतना भगवान तो मेरा उद्धार कर ही देगा, because मैंने इतना नाम लिया है उसका. So they will be, and you have lots of stories in Puranas like that, where that subtle ego of a bhakta is there, thinking that they have done so much of worship, and Bhagwan, and there's this, I think, a parable of prostitute and or a butcher and yogi आमने सामने रहते थे, a butcher, and there's also another story of a prostitute and a yogi, two such things, where the story concludes to say the butcher is killing everybody, but is killing animals, but every time he kills, he takes Bhagwan's name, and he says Shamaswa, this is my profession, I can't help it, says Shamaswa. And the yogi, the bhakta, cross, whoever, every time he sees him, curses him. तुम अपना profession क्यों नहीं बदलते हो? Why you always blah blah? Goes on. So this yogi, whoever, is getting very disturbed by the act happening in front of him every day. Story says that they both die at the same time. Yama comes and takes them both. But there is a kahani hai ki when you have to go to Swarg, then Yama himself comes. When you are going to Narak, then his Doot comes. So for that yogi, the Doot comes. Doot is an ambassador of Yamalok. The ambassador comes to take the yogi, and Yama himself comes to take the butcher. And yogi is obviously disillusioned. Ab marke he's got disillusioned of his whole pursuit, because suddenly he realized what has happened. It's like, why am I not going to Swarga? After all, I've spent my whole life, मैंने सब कुछ किया है, मैंने अग्निहोत्र किया है, मैंने all the karmas, nitya karmas, everything that the Vedas, I've done everything, and yet I'm being taken to Narakam. And here he has been killing in a day, how many must he be killing? And yet he's going to Swargam. So he stops them in between and charcha karni hai. So charcha shuru hoti hai unki, and he asks Yama, why is this? So Yama then gives this answer. Story is very long, cutting it short. Then Yama says, with every hinsa that he did it in the name of Lord. उसका मन उधर जुड़ गया, उसका शरीर उस काटा. He knows by profession he is fulfilling his stomach and his family, but उसने मन से नहीं काटा. Whereas what did the sadhu, the yogi did? वो शरीर से रिलीजियस कर्म कर रहा है, अग्निहोत्र कर रहा है, गायत्री जपा कर रहा है, ही इज डूइंग ऑल ऑफ दैट, बट मन से, मन जुड़ा है उसका विद द बुचर. He is not separated from his mind, the thought of the butcher, even in while doing Vedic actions or religious actions. So the point is, मन किसके साथ जुड़ा है? जब जप के में मन जुड़ता है जप में, तो उसका फल एक ही है, and it is always beneficial. पाप नाशक, पाप should not be taken as a जिस दुनिया में हाई पाप 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 ना, it's made a big issue of punya पाप. Is पाप just means difficult things, difficulties in life. External difficulties, internal difficulties, struggles, increased struggling life, not an easy life. So पाप नाशक means जप का फल ही है कि वो पाप नाश करता है. There is no other फल. There is nothing, it cannot go waste. It's not futile. It's not useless. So कर्म ही फल है, and that is how वो उसको बांधा है. One end is karma, and that karma itself is bound to that fal. In that sense, bound is not jakda. Bound means juda. Because bound has two meanings, so I understand you got the meaning of bound as jakda. Bound here means बंधा. फल से बंधा है और फल उसका पापनाशक है. Is that clear? Okay, because this is important and there are a few very general questions that have also come up on, and it is also something which is relevant for anybody who wants to take up. I am bulleting the topic of Japa without, of course, making a slide of it. I'm going to take questions and I'm going to answer them regarding the whole topic of Japa so that there is more clarity. And if I have left out something and you still want clarification on it, you can write or on the comments, or you can send me a mail later, because this topic is a very pivotal topic. If you understand the whole vision, some activity one will have to pick up for one's own personal holding, anchoring, जिससे आपका मन जुड़ेगा. This becomes a very essential topic then to have full vision on, clarity on. So say the first question, very general, all of them, taking all topics together. More clarifications on Japa. Can Parayanam means chanting, recitation, of any text also be called as a Japa? Japa principle is avritti, repetition. That is the principle of Japa. You can have Shabda avritti, Mantra avritti, I said, text avritti you can have. A text which pertains to the topic of Ishwara, anything around. Supposing I do physics book ki avritti, best avritti that we have all done is, and that's how our Sanskrit teachers in school used to at least tell us, Sanskrit ki bahut avritti hoti hai. Rama, Ramu, Ramaha, Ramam, Ramu, Rama. So they start with the Rama word. And then it's to tell you that at least Rama word, I'll take that up there. Isn't Rama word around? So the text which will have any name Ishwara related, Parayanam of it can also be introduced, called as Japa. So that is how once one comes into Vedanta more, this kind of a Japa as we are talking now of a Shabda or a mantra is not so prominent as it becomes text. So Bhagavad Gita Parayanam, and then as we advance further, then we do Brahma Sutra Parayanam, then we do Upanishad Parayanam, then we do Bhashya Parayanam. It's like, you go, so that idea is you're repeating yourself and the principle remains the same. Whatever repetition you will give to yourself will be the stronger groove. So Parayanam can very much be called as a Japa also, but condition is it cannot be physics Parayanam, chemistry Parayanam. It has to be something to do with the Ishwara. It can be Vishnu Sahasranama, all stotras, Upanishads, Gita, Brahma Sutra, grammar, Panini grammar sutras. You can have any Parayanam which has introduction of Ishwara. So I hope that question's covered. Second is a very beautiful general point which will carry forward a lot in life for who understands, especially in the Gita study. Japa, we saw this, Japa Yagnyosmi. Krishna says in the Gita, amongst all Yagnas, I am Japa Yagna. Yagna, but what does Yagna mean? In a very simple sense, it is just an act of prayer. Action. It's an action of prayer, worship. The kahavat, work is worship. That attitude, work is worship. When action is worshipful, it is karam yoga. In that sense, that it is act of worship, japa is yagna. Yagna is karam yoga. Also, karam yoga is also yagna. So, japa is yagna. Act of worship. Third question, should one be initiated by a guru to do japa yagna? To start a japa? Should one be initiated by a guru? It's not compulsory. It is not mandatory. The reason why one took, if one takes it from a guru, it becomes mantra diksha. That is only when you are sure you want to follow that sampradaya and that guru. Means now you are going to follow the disciplines of that sampradaya and that guru. But supposing, like in independent classes like these and in your independent journey, you want to introduce this, should you, because this is a doubt in people, should you take it from a guru or can you do it yourself? Can you start it yourself? If you're starting it yourself, then you must always accept that the mantra source is Bhagwan. Bhagwan is your guru. And Ishwara is your guru. And Ishwara comes in every form. So it doesn't matter in between. Your connection is with Ishwara as a guru. Whichever Ishwara japa you are choosing for yourself. Wahi guru hai and usi ka mantra hai, so there is, you can do it without initiation. The reason why they take initiation is because psychologically when a person is a little weak, having received it from someone, there is some sort of a sense of commitment, or it's a psychological prop which helps. And it helps to abide in the sampradaya, because India has a vast sampradaya lineage. Many, every few kilometers, like our habits and food and clothes change, sampradayas also change. Our religious ideas also change. So it was just to say, okay, in my lifetime, I will follow this sampradaya. So this guru I am accepting, and that guru represents a sampradaya, and this sampradaya abides. That would mean now formal disciplining yourself. Formally. Is japa dependent on that? No. So one can take it independently, but the source should be taken Bhagwan as your guru. Then there is a question asked, and if you take it yourself, preferable always is preferable, but no rules here. Preferable is that you start on the auspicious day, which is related to that Bhagwan. So if you're doing Shiva Japa, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivratri is a good day to that. Again, I'm repeating myself. It binds the mind psychologically. It tunes us. And that's a very helpful thing initially, jab mind bikhra hua hai sab jagah. So it helps to bring the mind to a groove. But it's not dependent on it. So it's an aid, but it's not dependent on that. Then a very important question that keeps coming up in mind for everyone is, if conflict is there between choosing between two Ishtadevtas. A lot of people have this. मतलब हमें करना तो है जप, लेकिन हमारा मन डिसाइड नहीं कर पा रहा है हम किसको लेके करें. मतलब कभी विष्णु पे जाता है, कभी है ना? कभी लगता है कि सब भगवान एक ही हैं, so it's okay to do anyone. I can do Christ, I can do Allah, I can do anything because all gods are one ultimately. I mean, there is no doubt about that. So हम मन फिर उसी में निकल जाता है कि आज इसका करें, इसका करें, उसका करें, किसका करें. So should we stick to one, or what should we do? So if there is a conflict in choosing between two, ideally speaking, the purpose of japa is to develop a personal relation with your ishtam. That is a basic principle. But अगर मन नहीं चल रहा एक में, it's okay. You can do predominant and less dominant. That means if I have two Ishta Devtas, say Shiva and Vishnu, I may have one day preferably stick to as much routine as possible. So you may have, say, out of, I may do Vishnu 60%, 80%, and I may do 20 Shiva%. I can do Ulta, or I may just do, say, Monday, Wednesday, and something like this. You'll have to find a way. Preferably only one. But if you can't, then instead of not doing at all, better to do something which is in the direction, right direction. And at the beginning itself to yourself, you have to remember this fundamental, that all Bhagwan's expressions in any form is ultimately one. So I worship him in this form, or her, or worship her in this form. That principle is in everything. With this, I can do this 60, 40, 80, whatever you want to, whichever way you want to do. Idea is to maybe slowly come to one. And a subset of this question is that for a few years, some of us have sometimes felt, as a child, I was leaning towards one deity, but when I have grown up, I have started leaning towards another deity. Another deity comes to my mind. That has disappeared as if somehow. Is that okay? Yeah, of course it's okay, because as long as we are connecting to the highest. Remember, Vedanta is not advocating all this as an end in itself. These are just helpful means. And as helpful means, whatever is there today is your helpful mean for today. Every day changes for us. There is new prarabdha opening. If in that new prarabdha there is another form that has opened up, that's perfectly okay. It's all ultimately one. How does it matter? It's, as I've constantly keep saying, आपने कान यहाँ से पकड़ लिया कि ऐसे पकड़ लिया, आपने कान वही पकड़ा, या आपने गंगा को पानी आपने हरिद्वार में फ्लावर दिया या बनारस जाके दिया, आपने दिया गंगा में या गंगोत्री जाके दिया. You tapped Ganga wherever, whichever time and space and sthan you did. With that spirit, it should not be a conflict at all. Shastra's advice is one. Why? Because the benefit will be accordingly. If you have one, then it helps in ekagrata. Because when all is only one, then why do I need to worship all?
But you'll have to let go of the form somewhere down the line, right? वो form आपको हटाना
Sorry?
पड़ेगा. You have to let go of the form, right?
Which form?
Like so suppose Krishna is everything to me, right? So at one point you have to let go of that form in your head, right? To connect with him.
You have to let go of the form to connect with him only.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that, so your attraction, so the form has to, you have to merge with that form. I mean, you have to have that feeling that you and him are one, right?
Yeah. So what I would say is, it's not letting go the form, it is merging of the form. The form is merging, the form is dissolved, the form is expanded, the form is magnified.
Yeah, yeah.
Your childhood form is not the same as your adult form. So you did not let go Krishna. The expansion of the vision, the merging of Krishna's form is with mental growth. Yes. Okay.
Deepti ji, I have a question.
Anji.
So, like Akanksha said, we have to feel that, it's a part of us, or like we are one. So, are we we'll reach that stage that we feel like we are one with God. Like, I didn't understand that part because God is like a higher power, right? So how can we be? It's like saying, "Oh, we are God," but I
That
didn't.
comes, no, yeah, initially, it's not a statement of initial stage, with a little difference. At stage comes when Vedanta has entered, and I think it's too premature to answer that. It's better to stick with your understanding. If you see that distance of superiority, and next verse, like in this, is going to say Abheda Bhavana. Bhakti is the highest form of bhakti. So what you are saying is Bheda Bhavana. Bhagwan is upper, I am niche. Bhagwan is superior, I am lower. Bhakti agar meri us bhav mein hi nikal rahi hai, and I see an impossibility of this merging, then that's fine. That's the starting, that's correct. Stick to that. But as it happens, a stage comes where bhakti is in the sense of the connection with Ishwara is in every form for you. So that's the point that Divya was mentioning. So it merges itself. At that stage, you and he are not separate. It cannot be separate. Because if it's separate, you have still not given, I would say you have still not given full justice to him, because if he's inhering in everything, then there can be no separation. He's ever present. He's in everything. So how can there be a separation at all? It's logically fallacious also. But then that bhav grows up to that point. So it's a little too premature to say that.
Okay.
Is that okay, Vedika?
Yeah, yeah.
So if there's I hope I've addressed the point of conflict. If there is a conflict, don't worry, do both, but stick to one prominent, whichever it is. And अगर मन दोनों तरफ जा रहा है, कोई बात नहीं, दोनों कर लो, धीरे धीरे अपने आप सॉर्ट हो ही जाएगा. अल्टीमेटली बुद्धि में बात तो यही आएगी कि it is all one. Okay, and then another question that keeps coming is, how many times should you be doing it? I did address it in the previous class, but repeating for the sake of more clarity. Since we are doing this as action-based activity, action would have phalam. If karma is done as sakam karma, then it is bound to rules. Now bound, I mean bandha hua. It has rules with which you have to abide. And what are the rules? Then the rules are that you have to repeat, because these are mantras, most of them. Mantras are maha mantras, those mantras which hold the power within them. They have the capacity. I may not be able to describe fully, but as we did Mannat Trayate, it is they are only called mantras which have the capacity to reveal, to unfold the Shakti. It has a power, it has a Shakti in it, inherent. It's like a nuclear missile. If a missile is, it may be just a small physical item, big enough, but it measurable. But its power is, if it's Hiroshima went, sent from there, the power is it can destroy. That's the power. So what is the power of a mantra? Oh, and unimaginable. That's the power of a mantra. But to unleash that power, there'll be a certain amount of repetitions that they say. You must have it. If sakamata is expected out of your mantra, then there will be a repetition of a certain number of mantra. वैसे भी japa is आवृत्ति, you have to repeat it. What is the formula of that? The formula is how many akshars are there. Akshar is the letters in your mantra. You can on your own choose by multiplying it by say if example is you are taking Om Namah Shivaya. So Namah Shivaya is the actual mantra. So Namah Shivaya. You leave out the vowels, only the letters are there. So it becomes Panchakshari. Panchakshari mantra. Panchakshari mantra, then you can say, I resolve to myself that I multiply it into 10 times. So 5 into 10 will become 50. So I will do 50 japas every day. Or you say, I'll do 5 into 100, or I will, in a year, I will do this. All those are your personal things. General acceptable is 108 a day. That's like, and I would suspect the reason is because first few japas your mind is coming into it, then you just, and then after that your attention is going away. तो कुछ ऐसा कोई principle होगा जरूर. Other than if you find other things, it doesn't matter. So that is like if you do it in a sakamata, if you have, then there will be restrictions to that because the power will not unleash before that. It has to have certain number of repetitions for it to get strengthened. But if you are doing it nishkam, and nishkam means I am just doing it because it is connecting me to the source. In that nishkamata, even one is enough. Because the purpose of japa anyways, ekagrata. So with one, your chitta shuddhi is happening. But if you want more ekagrata, you can repeat it till your ekagrata is established. So number may be independent. You don't restrict to number. Some days your mind is calm, some days it's very disturbed. So you're not conforming to any specific number. And it should be done at any time. Sandhya time is the preferable. Again, if you're doing sakamata, then you will have the rules of shuddhi first and all, at a specific place, specific time, and your dhyan has to first come and then japa on it. If you are doing it nishkam, then it's walkie-talkie. But if you want the benefit of ekagrata, then at least one time you sit in the posture of siddha, whichever is comfortable to you, and keeping a time, making it compulsory. The acharyas would say, teachers, parampara would say, like eating is compulsory. आपका वो नियम है वो. वैसे जपा once at least in a day should be niyam. So eating में you don't make a choice in the sense it is to be had. In the same way, japa at least once has to be done. Other than that, sandhya kal, 3 sandhya kals, any sandhya kal you can choose. Other than that, any time you can do. So one should be definite. Rest the whole day, it can go on in the mind. So sthana should also be at least one sthan, one time should be fixed. Then important thing people ask many times. In the class also I gave the example of Om, though I knew but I was doing it. Can Om be taken as a japa? My answer is from the standpoint of tradition, and I want to just make one clarification here. Whatever I say in classes are not my opinions. When I give an opinion, sometimes I do. If I'm making an opinion or my judgment, I specify that this is my opinion. So everything that is said here is like, it's a postman, yahan se delivering. So it's like that. So tradition says, Om should never be done. Let me rephrase this. Om should only be done by sannyasis. When you have taken sannyasa in your life, then Om is your japa given. It's given to you. Means, ab Om pe jap karo. And there's a lot of significance of this. The reason they say is, grahasthas should avoid doing Om alone. Reason they give is, then I'll give you my opinion. The reason they give is because it develops tivra vairagyam. Now, if you're already in a grahastha ashram and you develop vairagyam, I don't have to repeat. So, if you're a grahastha but mentally you're a sannyasi already, I am saying I have taken Om, supposing if I know I'm a mental sannyasi, I don't have to take a physical sannyas. But if I have got the sannyasa dharma in my mind, I can do Om japa because I would like to abide in sannyasa dharma. But if the minute the class is over and my mind is going to all things and I have responsibilities because I have a family and I'm supposed to follow responsibilities, then it's preferable to attach Om with any Ishtadevta. In fact, the reason Om is an independent thing and say Namah Shivaya is independent, they're two independent which have come together because the idea is this Namah Shivaya will bring me to Om one day. So all mantras are starting with Om in that sense. But Om is going to be the final because Om is representing the entire Nirgunam, Sagunam and Nirgunam. So it brings you to the point of Nirgunam. But if one is in Grahastha Ashrama, then it can be fragile because now my opinion to this is even if it's done, it'll have no effect because it's going to become like that sannyasi, that yogi who was doing all karmas but mind is attached somewhere else. उसका मन बुचक में अटका हुआ है लेकिन वो कर सब कर्म रहा है. In the same way, अगर आप अपने मन से ओम 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 किए जा रहे हो लेकिन आपके मन में तो your jobs and your families and your future and insecure ये सब चल रहा है, so Om is unlikely to have that impact. But tradition wants. Many people argue, why can't we do it? Well, that's not my job. Is only to say what tradition says. Afterwards, if you think you still are a mental sannyasi and you want to go ahead, experiment with it, that's your choice. My job is to give you the information in that sense that they warn grahasthas to not chant Om alone. But every grahastha is not necessarily just pure grahastha when you come to Vedanta. So there are many grahasthas who are prepared for Vedic knowledge. Now, like say Vedika just now said, for her Bhagwan is here and now you don't start the chant of Om alone. That's detrimental then. Because विकास अभी मेरा ये है कि भगवान here and I am sitting here lower. So just doing Om will upset the whole. That's why just do the japa of your Ishtadevta. That Ishtadevta is anyway Om. It will bring you to Om in time. Okay, I hope I'm clarifying this once and for all. And I'm stopping to take all this together because I know never again probably will I repeat this topic. As we keep going, I will presume that thoroughness, Tattvabodha, the thoroughness is there because it's now a reference point. Similarly, all these topics that are there related, the thoroughness is here because this is not going to get repeated. The recordings will be there. Whoever wants to can, as we keep moving into Vedanta more and more as the topic keeps going ahead. Okay. So then, again, is it okay to change the mantra after some time? Yes, it is okay to change, preferably not, but if your mind is not going to settle down and wants to change, then change. No problem about it. The idea is, one more question, is mala compulsory for japa? Is japa mala compulsory to do japa? It's not compulsory, it's optional. And if you have to do mala, the idea of mala was twofold. One is that you synchronize the movement of the bead with your thought, with the japa. So it helps, it's an aid. Like if I have a weak leg, I take the help of a cane to walk. So mala is a cane for the mind. With a lot of practice, it would so happen, the yogis say, कि जब बदलता है, thought बदल जाता है, तो उनके हाथ में movement बदल जाती है. There is so much coordination between the movement of the hand and the thought japa. So it would be like biofeedback mechanism. It would suddenly tell you that your mind is gone. But this is for people who do it for a very long time. And that, I gave you that niyam, they say your mala should be covered by a cloth. And then there is a way to hold the bead. It's all there. I'm sure on the internet you'll be able to find what's the way to hold. And it should not be lower than the heart. You should not hold it on the ground. So, your mala comes almost at the shoulder level, at the higher level. And it should be at that level and not below your navel. It should not go below your navel, kind of a thing. So these are rules with mala. But is it compulsory for japa? No, it's optional. So, and should you then just start with vachika first and then come to manasa? That is purely your tuning. Are you comfortable with vachik first to do it, or are you comfortable in manasa karma, manasa japa? Idea in manasa japa is manas japa is soundless. Japa principle is sound. Sound is vibration. Am I making a point? Are you able to hear, or is the internet hanging? Okay. So sound is vibration. So when you do it orally, loudly, it's a vibration. Mentally, if you are doing it, that means you must have the capacity to hold the thought. Thought is also a vibration, but it's a very subtle vibration compared to sound. So your attention should remain on that. If your attention can remain on that, any day I would prefer mental, because it's subtle and you're freed of all. Disturbance नहीं होएगी तुम्हारे पर, तुम कभी भी कर सकते हो. मन में कर रहे हो तो तुम कभी भी करो. You're going in a car, even if your person is talking to you, your mind can do a japa. You're so free. If somebody is saying kata 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 kata, you know what I mean? Thing inauspicious that you shouldn't be hearing, but वो लगे हुए हैं अपने बोले जा रहे बोले. Now you can mentally tune yourself off into your japa. They will not know. So your vyavahar improves a lot, etc., etc. So there are a lot of advantages. The subtler it is, better it is. That's what we saw in this book. The higher it is, mental is highest. The highest it is, that much better it is. So one very important principle, and it may be very difficult for some of you to absorb it, but it's a principle. So the day you understand it, something happens different. Principle is, people have a doubt on the efficacy of the mantras and these japas. We doubt it because we've now got a very modern educated mind and intellect. So, there are certain things we don't believe in because we don't see the results or we don't see them functioning. My only counterpoint to that is, just as gravity is an unseen function but experienceable. I'm repeating this. Gravity is unseen. It's a function and it's experienceable. So too are all these karmas that are mentioned in Vedas. They are existent. Gravity is existent, but not seen, but functions, is experienced. So too the karmas that they give their phal is in that manner. So too the karmas that you, what was I saying? Yeah. So gravity, just as you cannot see, but it functions and is experienceable. Underline, underline, underline in your mind as many times as you can. It should be loud. Gravity is an ever experienced thing, but it's not understood by everybody how it works. But it was discovered. Before gravity was discovered, what was happening? Was gravity created? Gravity was working. Ununderstood phenomenon, but working. It's a principle in operation. Vedas, and I'm talking entire Vedas. This is a path-breaking vision if somebody can absorb it. The entire Vedas are akin to that. The knowledge that we think is knowledge is not knowledge, it's a function. It's already in operation. It's already in experience. The only difference is scientist, he's called a scientist who discovered gravity. Those who have discovered Vedic functioning, this functions of the laws of nature, is a rishi. But these sounds, these mantras, these karmas will give this result. All this is discovered, which means it was working. It works. But you can't see it. So don't ask for a proof. What is the proof of it? Your experience of it. Can I understand it? You can. If you rise up, if you're an Einstein, you'll understand it. Is everyone an Einstein to understand gravity? No. What do all of us do? We just accept Einstein said it on faith. Einstein has discovered ye speed hai, ye hai. So don't I have faith in that? Because I don't understand. So I have faith in Einstein and I have faith that it works the way he says it. Because my connecting point is that I experience gravity. वैदिक कर्म के अपने फल आते हैं. नियम है ये. It's in operation. Vedas is not books. It is principles in operation. It's creation. You can't. It's existence. That existence has been packed, discovered in the form of these. That's why Vedas are not limited. You know, people say books are limited. The era of Vedic knowledge, when it grew, mantras were getting added and added and added, and they were a jumble of material, like internet today is to us. It's a jumble of material. Everybody seems to be having postings on internet. There's so much junk on internet, through internet today. Vedas had so much, that era was where so much was discovered mentally. Vyasa only codified it into 4 Vedas. He categorized that material. He put them into, because as times go, as era changes, the deterioration has to happen. Our buddhis are going to be dulled away. So for that, but my point important now I'm making is, these mantras, these karmas are efficacious. If I don't understand them, it doesn't mean they don't work. In fact, authoritative statement is, there is no way we can understand them. If our buddhis are the way we are. That means I need a rishi mind to understand. And if I have a rishi mind, then definitely these things are evident. It's not hypothesis. It's not Western philosophers have tried to negate its existence. It's existence itself. So in that sense, and one more side point which I can think of, okay, 2 more, time's up, but I'm going to cover the topic. One more is, because you cannot understand these, human intellect will take very long to come to this understanding. The knowledge is a protection when it's followed, without understanding also. So the question, supposing someone says, can I do it mechanically? Can Japa be done mechanically? Another question. Japa can be done mechanically. No doubt about it. It's better than not doing it at all. But it should not restrict to remaining mechanical forever. Because if you say, when I understand, I will do. पहले मुझे समझाओ, हमने बहुत ऐसा किया, once we have got this freedom in the last few decades in India to question, to ask. So most of us have gone through the same, our biodatas would be similar in that manner. पहले समझाओ फिर करेंगे. नहीं तो नहीं करेंगे हम, so we are not going to be unique in that. So most of us said we don't understand, so we won't do it. And it's amazing to wait for somebody to come and explain it. In the meantime, what has this Rishi's done? This vikas of, and I'm not talking about this era human upadhi, human intellect ka vikas hone mein, it will take years and years, janmas, generations. We are an infant intellect at the moment. From all the pranis, our intellect may be better, but we are still infant intellect. It's like Einstein and me. But what is good for me, if I follow it without understanding, because they are principles, then I still get the benefit of it. Because they work. I don't have to understand gravity to test gravity. From my 12th floor, I jump down to say, does gravity work? First I throw an apple and then I throw myself down just to say, aha, okay, now I know gravity works. I won't be existent if I throw myself down to test gravity. I follow gravity because I know it's a principle which will not fail. Veda, entire Veda. Unless we understand the importance of Veda, we cannot appreciate Vedanta. Vedanta is maturity of thought. Entire Veda is a function. Registered and with an idea that it protects the being, human beings. It's good for the infant stage of the human being. Ye karam karte raho, ye mat karo. This mind is what is somebody said, empty mind is devil's workshop. This mind of a human intellect, jitna abhi upadhi mein bana hai na, is a very dangerous equipment if not trained well. It can take you to the lowest levels of your existence. It can rise you to the highest level. So this knowledge is given that you be cautious. Things that are not to be done, don't do. Things can be done. Love them, enjoy them, have fun with them. Live your life fully. And the fullest capacity of life is moksha. Okay, so I think I've covered most of the points. There is one more question here Divya has asked. Given the mind is restless sometimes, isn't Japa supposed to help elevate the mind from restlessness? I'm not sure I understand the question very well. It is supposed to, but why are you asking, isn't Japa supposed to? But of course it is supposed to. And so I think I'm not getting the spirit of the question fully. Given the mind is restless sometimes, isn't Japa supposed to help elevate the mind from restlessness? It is supposed to, but also if the mind is very restless, you will realize you can't do Japa at all. So maybe Divya can rephrase or ask if it's not understood fully. It is meant, answer is yes, it is meant to elevate the restlessness from the mind. But by itself is Japa enough going to be? No, you will have to do karma yoga, rag dvesh ko dhila karna. So Japa is higher than karma. Puja, remember? Puja comes first and then comes Japa. So if Japa is, mind is too restless to do Japa, then come to Puja. You control the mind at the level of action first. From the point of view of the example you gave, which example? I don't remember the context. What you are. So in the meantime, is that okay if anybody else has any other question? Because now remember the topic covering. It's all a topic. Puja is the starting point for mind control. Bringing Ishwara to gain that adrishta phalam, For a grahastha, when you do all this, then it's like, adding money to your bank. These karmas have their phal, and that phal is papanashak. So even if you don't need them, they're going as a deposit, And sometimes families have all kinds of challenges coming all the time. So it's like, getting a self-check withdrawn. So when you ask something, Bhagwan already says, Aapke account mein hai, I can give you something. So all these karmas are meant to be, and that's why in our societal division of society, women in society were very strong because they stayed at home, kind of, etc., etc. The way it was divided, many women got into upasanas, and because men were outward, mind is out, working, fighting, doing blah blah. So the idea was, if somebody in the family is also doing it, it is in the name of the family. The family is protected when you need it. And they work. I think some of us know the benefits of all these things too loud and too clear. And
Deepti
yes,
ji,
Vedika
Deepti
has.
ji,
Hanji. Yeah.
a question around the mala, like how I wanted to know the traditional and your opinion on how they say that the two japas should not be done on the same mala because mala also gains.
Sorry?
I wanted to ask
What?
about how I wanted to ask about the traditional view and your opinion on how they say that two japas should not be done on the same mala, but if you've already done it, or like the mala ko wo they say usko wash karo, so shuddhikaran karo and all that. तो उसका क्या मतलब? What is your traditional and your
I
view on
would,
that?
no, I would say yes. Better to follow that. Don't do two japas on the same mala.
And if one has already done it, तो फिर उसको मतलब नहीं करना चाहिए. फिर then get a new mala. Better to get a new mala then.
Yeah, it's better to keep a different, like say for Shiva, it's a Rudraksha mala, for Vishnu, it's a Tulsi mala.
Like for Ganesha, like I had a Tulsi mala which I used to do Krishna on, then now I'm doing Ganesha on that. So वो अब काफी time से उस पे Ganesha कर रही हूँ, but is it a good idea or
No,
should I get a new?
that's. I think see, these are things that will have gray shades. My basic point is, niyam are given in this to avoid our ragadvesh. If you follow that principle, now how will you answer your own question? What is
Means as
making
long as
me
you
do?
don't fret about it, and if you're already done it, then just purify it and continue. राग द्वेष नहीं करो मतलब.
हाँ, वो भी कह सकते हो, और ये भी कह सकते हो कि जब नियम बन गया है कि एक ही में करना है, एक ही को करना है, एंड इफ आई एम डूइंग अ न्यू वन, आई कैन ऑलवेज टेक अ न्यू जपा माला. इसमें भी तो मेरा राग द्वेष हो गया ना कि इट्स अ कन्वीनियंट फैक्टर फॉर मी to use the same thing. But my opinion would be, if I would say, where things are not in our understanding, follow them. If you are not able to follow them and you have to make adjustments and modifications, always make them if it is better to make them, but always with some sort of an idea of shamaswa. We are all ignorant people in these things. नहीं पता चलेगा, कहीं ना कहीं गलती कुछ ना कुछ तो होनी ही है, सबसे होनी. So it's okay, Bhagwan, this is the best I can do. Thank you so much. We all understand this is not the end of purpose of it. So I can do this much best today. If I can do both, I'll try and get another one. But if I can't, I'm not burning my soul on it. My purpose is japa, and that japa ka phal you have to give. Why will it matter to you? See now, also that my class I feel is very, very complete. You may have to go over a few times to consolidate the idea. If you consolidate the principles, you will find all answers within them. Now, if there is a dichotomy of sakamata and nishkamata, जप में फोर्स होता है, जप में ना माला में आ जाता है, etc. This will become important when
you're doing it with some kamna. When it's nishkam, then it doesn't matter so much.
It's a karma phal के साथ जुड़ा है ना. अगर निष्काम के साथ है तो बिना जप के, माला के भी जप तो हो ही रहा है. It's not dependent on the mala. So, for independent, these things, when in Vedanta, we are covering principles. And when you understand the principles, my andaza is that almost every question is answered under it. As life moves on and different situations come, principles are unshaken. So my situations can change. So I will come across this, but if go back to principle, I'll find my answer within them. Okay? So keeping that the mala can have, and yes, it is a fact, I would say that. In fact, that is where people took mantra diksha from gurus. Those gurus practiced the mantra, so they say, Mera karam phal usme hai, so now I give it to my shishya. All those things, you know. So some shishya receives that from the guru, because the guru says, my entire tapas is in this, and I hand it over to you now. So it's like a principle in creation of continuity. There is nothing that you can discard, and there is nothing that needs to be feared from. Whenever there's an ambiguity, whenever there is a confusion, there is an idea of shamasva behind. Today, my understanding is this much. If it's proved wrong, I'll correct it at that point. Okay. Yes. Question: is there a particular book? Yes, this is the book. Can you see it here? This is the book, Upadesa Sara by Ramana Maharishi, and I have written a commentary on it. And yes, you can get it on Amazon. This question someone's asked privately. Yes, you can get it on Amazon. There is an audiobook. You can get it now. I have forgotten a lot of links and everything, but I'm sure you'll get them on the website or somewhere. But it's definitely on Amazon. The audiobook is not on Amazon. Audiobook, I think, is on Google Play, because there was something mistake I made, and it's not available in India. It's available everywhere else in the world. So I'm doing this book, Upadesa Sara by Ramana Maharishi, and yes, I've commented on it. It's just around all this that I'm writing, saying. But the idea is that I find there's a lot of value to this text for spiritual development. And Vedanta knowledge without spiritual inclination will become jnana of matter. It doesn't pierce and it doesn't carry forward. The basic principle, last minute I am saying it. Adivya, Mitagunta, in the meantime, if you still have a doubt, please do write. Otherwise, it should be okay. Forgot what I was saying. So that's it. Let's end the class here. And tomorrow we will continue. Now see the continuity of this book. Now here puja, now upasana, and then he's now talking. And this japa, when it is done with dhyanam, meaning, full meaning, you know, then that meaning one can contemplate upon. When one is contemplating upon it, then there will be many thoughts, but the topic remains the same. That becomes nididhyasan, dhyanam. One more question, someone, before I conclude. Should we focus on the japa or the silence between? Some people say focus on the japa mantra. Some say focus between the two japa mantras on the silence. Yeah. If you are doing japa of Ishtadevta, focus on japa of Ishtadevta. That's the karma. Focusing on silence comes in the part of nididhyasana. It comes in the part of reflection, contemplation. The nature of silence is nirgunam, rise. That's a different kind of, it becomes meditation of a different nature. So जब जप कर रहे हैं, तब jap is on the mantra. Don't worry about the silence. But if you're looking at silence part, then that becomes meditation of a different nature. It's no longer japa. Now it's available for contemplation. Okay. I think my internet is going and coming. So, Divya, you haven't concluded. I'm presuming it is okay. All right, so let's end it.
Or shall I email it?
Sorry,
I wanted to know, you said that if there's no japa and we are focusing on the silence, that's a different meditation. Then which one is superior, the meditation on the silence or the manas japa?
Yeah, good question. They are two different, entirely different pal prayojanam. Japa, of course, you understand now. So, done on silence is definitely superior, provided we understand the nature of silence is Brahman. A lot of us, 99.9% of the people who meditate on silence, between two thoughts, focus on silence, are focusing on the awareness aspect in silence. That awareness, no, I won't say 99.9, but whoever's focusing on awareness as silence, that awareness idea should be very clear that this awareness is Brahman. So unless and until someone has this grounding in Vedantic knowledge, Advaita Vedantic knowledge, silence meditation in itself will give a lot of silence and bring awareness, no doubt about it. Magnify it. In that sense, it's superior to doing
And
this.
is it okay to follow one by the other? Like for half an hour you do the silence and for half an hour you do the japa?
That is, I think, okay, because they are two different things completely. And following japa on Manasa japa as just a deity or something will always anyway be limited. So, I can have, in fact, it will become an aid in silence. Because by then your mind would have got very silent. If you have sustenance, if like the question was asked, if it's very restless, then anyway you will not even sit for that japa for too long. So if one is qualifying oneself, silence is the best to reflect upon the nature of, for which there should be enough information about what is the nature of the silence. Once one has information, now comes the connection of recognizing it. Should we end? Did we start the class today with the invocation? Yeah, Akanksha. Okay. Do you have the ending? Do you remember?
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. This is the one, right? We start with this. Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam. न्यायेन मार्गेण महिषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः
Om Shanti. Oh, thank you, everyone.